District CER Summative, Green Book helped African American tourists navigate a segregated nation by Smithsonian.com. Directions. Read the following passage. After reading the passage, answer the following CER question by composing a paragraph. Support your claim with valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence from the text. Prompt. Why was the Green Book effective in helping Black Americans travel by car during the era of segregation? For Black Americans traveling by car in the era of segregation, the open road presented serious dangers. Driving long distances to unfamiliar places, Black motorists ran into racism in a number of dangerous forms. There were hotels and restaurants that refused to serve them, and hostile sundown towns where posted signs might warn people of color that they were banned after nightfall. Paula Winter, a Manhattan-based artist, recalls a frightening road trip when she was a young girl during the 1950s. In North Carolina, her family had to hide in their Buick after a local sheriff passed them, making a U-turn and gave chase. Winter's father, Richard Irby, switched off his headlights and parked under a tree. We sat until the sun came up, she says. We saw his lights pass back and forth. My sister was crying. My mother was hysterical. It didn't matter if you were Lena Horne or Duke Ellington or Ralph Bunche, traveling state to state if the road was not friendly or obliging, Calvin Alexander Ramsey says. He was a New York City-based filmmaker and playwright. Along with director and co-producer Becky Whibley Sears, he interviewed Winter for their documentary about the visionary businessman who set out to make travel easier and safer for African Americans. The Green Book's Safety Net. Paragraph 4. Victor H. Green was a 44-year-old Black postal carrier in Harlem, a neighborhood that has long been a center of African American culture in New York City. He relied on his experiences as well as tips from Black members of his Postal Service Union for the inaugural guide bearing his name, the Negro Motorist Green Book in 1937. The 15-page directory covered much of New York City, listing establishments that welcomed Blacks. The power of the guide, Ramsey says, was that it created a safety net. If a person could travel by car, and those who could did, they would feel more in control of their destiny. The Green Book was what they needed. Mail carriers, Ramsey explains, were uniquely situated to know which homes would be friendly to travelers. They mailed reams of listings to Green. Black travelers were soon also assisting Green by submitting suggestions in an early example of what today would be called user-generated or crowdsourced content. An honor to be listed. Paragraph 7. Another of Green's ideas predated today's residential logging networks like Airbnb. His guide listed private residences where Black travelers could stay safely. Indeed, it was an honor to have one's home listed as a rooming house in the Green Book, though the listings themselves were minimal. Andalusia, Alabama, tourist homes. Mrs. Ed Andrews, 69 North Cotton Street. The Green Book was valuable to Black-owned businesses. For historians, Smithsonian curator Joanne Hippolyte says the listings offer a record of the rise of the Black middle class, and in particular, of the entrepreneurship of Black women. In 1952, Green retired from the Postal Service to become a full-time publisher. He charged enough to make a modest profit, 25 cents for the first edition, $1 for the last, but he never became rich. It was really all about helping, Ramsey says. At the height of its circulation, Green printed 20,000 books annually, which were sold at Black churches, the Negro Urban League, and Esso gas stations. The 1948 Guide Prediction. Paragraph 10. Writing in the 1948 edition, Green predicted that there will be a day in the near future when this guide will not have to be published. That is when we as a race will have equal opportunities and privileges in the United States. He died in 1960, 4 years before Congress passed the Civil Rights Act. Green's lasting influence, Ramsey says, was showing the way for the next generation of Black business people. Beyond that, he adds, think about asking people to open their homes to people traveling. Just the beauty of that alone. Some folks charged a little, but many didn't charge anything. Documenting the Green Book for the 21st century. Today, filmmaker Rick Burns is working on his own Green Book documentary. The film, he says, shows the open road as a place of shadows, conflicts, and often agonizing incidents. Washington, D.C.-based architectural historian Jennifer Root created the website Mapping the Green Book in 2011. She travels the country to document surviving Green Book sites, such as Las Vegas's Moulin Rouge Casino and Hotel and the La Dale Motel in Los Angeles. Much of her focus, she says, is to look at places in the middle of nowhere. That is where it was much more dangerous for people to go. The prompt for your CER. Why was the Green Book effective in helping Black Americans travel by car during the era of segregation?